Next, though, the latest on Russia's war on Ukraine as we turn next to video just into us. Ukraine's emergency service says this video shows first responders. We'll just bring that up for you as we can. First responders on the scene of a hospital hit by a Russian bombardment. This is a hospital close to Zaporizhzhia. That is the site of the huge nuclear plant as well, and it's been a real focus for intensive fighting in southern Ukraine. In that bombardment, officials say a maternity ward was destroyed and a newborn baby killed. Just heartbreaking details emerging from this, and we're going to get further clarification from Briar Stewart, who's in London, with the very latest on what has happened in that massive bombardment attack. Good morning, Briar.
Good morning. Well, Heather, this community where Ukraine says this attack took place is called Vilnensk, and it is just east of Zaporizhzhia, which you mentioned has become a real target throughout this war. Not only do you have the nuclear plant in the area there, but the residential areas in Zaporizhzhia have been hit really almost continuously, night after night, over recent weeks. And this maternity hospital, what Ukraine is saying is that it was a two-story building, and it was hit in the early hours this morning. And from the images that have been released and what Ukrainian officials are saying is that a doctor and a mother were pulled from the rubble, but a newborn baby was found dead. So obviously a very tragic circumstance. We haven't been able to verify those reports ourselves, but the information is coming in from the Ukrainian security emergency services, and those are the ones that really, the crews that respond right away on the scene. Now, that attack just came hours before air raid alerts were issued all across Ukraine. In fact, they're still in effect now, and there have been reports, Heather, of explosions once again in the Kyiv area, and even some reports of renewed power outages. Now, this is something that the city and the country as a whole have been dealing with for weeks now, as Russia has, not hit its intention to try to target infrastructure and the power grid all across the country. And these latest attacks come the same day that the European Parliament has designated Russia a state sponsor of terrorism because it continually attacks civilian infrastructure. But that move is really largely symbolic because while the Parliament has made that designation, there is no kind of framework to follow up or to try to punish Russia for that designation.
Briar, you mentioned reports of Kyiv, and just as you've been reporting to us live, the mayor of Kyiv is saying, yes, there are explosions have been heard in the capital, infrastructure has been hit, but there are no further details, so I know you'll be watching that for us. We're seeing a new push by Ukrainian officials to move civilians away from that fighting. People in cities like Kherson, though, have no heat, they have no power, they have very little food. So what is the president, Volodymyr Zelensky, telling Ukrainians at this point?
Well, in the city of Kherson, and I should also mention Mykolaiv, there is a real push to try to get people who are willing to leave to evacuate the cities. And it is because of the lack of power and heat. We've heard so much just about how this could be a very dark winter as Ukraine is struggling with power outages. In fact, the infrastructure in the country, about half of it has been hit by Russia in recent weeks. So you have utility crews that are trying to get the power grid up and running continuously. But obviously, I mean, there is a real problem here. And in Kherson, the power grid was taken out as Russian forces retreated. So they are starting to move some people out of the city of Kherson. But Ukraine is talking about setting up centers across the country that could be put into use if there are widespread power outages and blackouts like we know some cities are dealing with. And what Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has dubbed these is invincibility centers. So places where people could go to warm up, to plug in their phone. And here's a little bit about how he described how they would work.
Місцевій владі поставлено завдання забезпечити інформування людей про наявність пунктів незламності. Це має бути дуже просто. В будівлях органів влади, в аптеках, магазинах, поштових відділеннях має бути інформація про те, де людина може знайти підтримку у випадку тривалого відключення енергії.
And I should mention that we are seeing one of these centers really kind of being deployed right now in the city of Kherson. That's because they've turned the railway station into a hub where people can come and, plug in their cell phones and try to warm up. And really what they're trying to do is kind of set up a network of these centers across the country in case people do need a place to turn to.
Briar Stewart from London, thank you very much.